Hey, what's up? My name is Chris and welcome to Coding in Public. In this video, we're going to be walking through this password component and building it out from scratch. Now, I've got this component that I got from UI Design Daily. I've done a video on them before, but there's basically just a bunch of free templates you can download and then just code out yourself. I think this is really helpful when you're learning, especially because you get real life practice on real life components and you're trying to make them pixel perfect, which is what we're going to try to do. Now, I've downloaded the file. It's a Figma file. So we're going to open it up in Figma and kind of code it out together. All right, you ready? Let's go ahead and jump right in. All right, so here's the Figma file right over here, and we've got kind of everything we need. I have gone ahead and extracted this image along with these two icons so that we can just get started with that right away. Let me go ahead, though, and open up my terminal here, and I'm just going to start by creating a directory. So we'll say password component. We'll create that, and then let's go ahead and create two files in here. So I'll touch an index.html and style CSS. Perfect. All right, let's add both of those. And then I'm going to go ahead and open it up in my code editor. I'll drop in those three files and be right back with you. All right, so there we go. We've got all these set up and I've added the three files, this hidden SVG, the lock SVG, and then the headshot itself. I'm going to go ahead and start with just templating out a basic HTML page, and we'll call this something like password component. And then let's go ahead and just explore kind of what we have going on here. But I guess first of all, I should probably add in my CSS. So that should link all that up. And we'll get this spun up with live server right here. All right, for whatever reason, I opened it on the wrong screen. So I'll go ahead and open that up. Okay, here we go. Now let's go ahead and jump back into the Figma file. And the first thing I like to do when I'm styling this out is just go ahead and get the components on the page themselves. So let's go ahead and just copy these one after the other. This is just a clipboard manager I use called Pastebot that makes this a little bit easier, but you can see I can just download these or kind of add them one at a time to my clipboard, and then eventually I can paste them back in the same order I copied them. So enter your password, this icon, so I'll probably set these next to each other. This will be in its own little grid container. Same thing here. Okay, so I think I have a general sense. We'll probably switch up the markup here in a second. So we'll go ahead and add a card is what we'll call it to start with. I'll close the sidebar there. And this is where everything will live. And I think for now, I'll just make it a div because I don't really know where it's going to be in relationship to the other thing. So I don't know if I should make it a section or an aside or an article or something like that. So we'll just leave it here for now. Okay, enter your password will probably be an H2 at the most. So I'll go ahead and do that. But this all needs to be in its own little section here. Well, I don't think it does. We'll start with this, okay? Next, we're going to have, I know, a div that should have our image in here. And this should be the headshot. We'll say headshot or something like that. And then next to this will be another div, and this will have two things in it, the business account, and then also Sarah Bills, which is the person's name. All right, so with those set, next, let's see, outside of all of this, we'll have another div, and this will have the password here, and I guess I should surround this here and make it a paragraph, or I guess it should probably be a label. So we'll say label. And then we'll say 4, and this should be, let's just call it password. Okay, and that will point to this input with the type of password. And this will also have an ID, a password, so that it connects it to that label. Let's see, password, like that. And then I'll also do a name the same way. And that way we can get this from like a JavaScript event or the JavaScript API for like data fetching. So when you submit this form, you can grab this all from a form data, put it in a form data object, and then extract that out. Okay, so that should be good to go. We are going to have some other things in here, like the icons and stuff like that, but we'll get around to that in a second. Okay, next we've got stay signed in. I don't remember exactly how that is. Okay, so that's another checkbox or another input, in this case a checkbox. So checkbox, let's see, where are we at right here? And I think for now, let's just call this like signed in. About that, and same thing here, so signed in. All right, next let's add the label, and I'll do it after this. This will be for signed in, and let's see, add stay signed in right after that. Now continue is a button, and if I remember correctly, it's just, yeah, spread the opposite way. So we'll add maybe these inside of a div themselves, and then below here we'll have a button, which will probably be an actual button element, and that will say continue. Let's see, now outside of all this, down below here, we'll probably have a link to reset password. I would guess that is what this would be, and we'll call this reset password. Okay, so there we go. Looks like when I save it, everything pops in. Obviously, it's not styled correctly, but we'll kind of, figure that out as we go. All right, now this is the intention. I probably should have said this at the beginning, is really that this is kind of like a live stream ahead of time. I'm actually in the process of moving, so I thought I'd record this live stream ahead of time, and that way you can kind of see my process like I normally do with these kinds of things. And it's good practice for me just to kind of keep iterating on learning CSS, HTML, and JavaScript. Okay, so let's go ahead and figure out what we've got here. Looks like the font is Enter. I'm guessing this is everywhere. Yeah. Okay, so font's Enter for everything. What colors do I have? If I hit Control or Command A, I can see all the selected colors. So basically I have one selected color, and it's this one right here. So we'll grab this. Is it the same? Yeah. Okay, so, and then I guess this is white too, which is a color. So let's go ahead and just kind of get some basic declarations going on the CSS. So CSS right over here. And we'll start with just grabbing the after and the before and everything else and do a basic clear. So box sizing of border box. And then I like to go ahead and set my margin and my padding to 0 just to let the kind of the parents control each of the intersections as I can. All right, next we'll have a root declaration that will eventually add a bunch of stuff in. To start with though, let's just add some colors in here. So I'll call this accent like that, and I'll paste this in, and that is a hex. Let's see, we are gonna have, this is kind of like a faded thing. I'm guessing that's opaque version of this. So let's go ahead and change this to HSL. This is how I like to write my colors, and then I'll strip out all these commas to use a more updated syntax, and we'll leave it like that for now. And I'll show you why I'm doing that in a second. If you haven't watched my videos before, that's what I typically like to do. Also for white, even though this is just white, it'll be 100%. I'll go ahead and leave it the same hue, and maybe we'll back that off to like 99.5 or something like that, as so it's slightly kind of got that flavor to the hue. Okay, next let's come down to the body, and we need to add in that font. So if I come back over here, it was Enter, but let's see what we need. Looks like we need the bold and the medium and the bold and the semi-bold, 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 and semi-bold. Okay, so medium, semi-bold, and bold. So we'll say Enter font, and let's see right here. And we'll probably have to, oh, it looks like I already have used this in the past. Regular bold, so I just need semi-bold on top of that. So where are we at? Right here. So I'll grab all of those, and let's go ahead and just add it here to the HTML. Now, I probably will add this before, let's see, after the title, but before the CSS, something like that. And then I'll go ahead and grab this rule for the CSS. All right, so that should work. If I jump back over here, yeah, it looks like it picked up that color. Let's go ahead and set some defaults though for everything else. So we'll say background color here should be my var of white. Now again, the reason I'm declaring it like this right here is because I can kind of add some custom opacity as I need to. So in this case, it's just white, but let's say I use this as accent and I saved it. You can see it gets that dark color, but I can just come in here now and do a /.2 and I get opacity kind of when I need it. So that's why I like to do it that way. And it's really just wrapping it in HSL each time, which you may not like that, but I do. So there we go. Let's copy this down. I'm going to remove background here and change this to accent. So that's the color of the text. All right, next, let's think through other things we know will be consistent throughout. So if these are all the same color, we are going to have different font sizes. So maybe let's just copy these out. That one's obviously the biggest at 32. What's this one? 18. This one looks small. Yeah, 14, 14. How about these? 16, 16, 16. Okay, so we've got 16 and 14. So let's grab all of these. And so it looks like, yeah, I just got those 4 sizes. So maybe let's come in here and say like font sizes, and or how about just fonts, because we'll probably have other things we need to change around on these. So in here, let's have font size, let's call it font size 400. And then we'll also have a 500, which will be my kind of slightly bigger. 600 will be the biggest, and then 300. So let's start down here. We'll have, 32 pixels, and up here will be 18 pixels. Up here will be 16 pixels, which will be my default, and then finally 14 pixels. So let's add semicolons all there. All right, so inside here, we're gonna go ahead and say font size var, font size 5, so I guess 400, something like that. So that should work. I probably should pay attention to line height as well. So these are all set to auto, which I'm not totally sure how that translates between like an H1 or H2 or that kind of thing. So it looks like 18, line height gets to 21. So let's try this. So 18, we'll do 18 times 1 point, maybe 2. Yeah, 21.6. So I think maybe it's just 1.2 for everything. So we'll say line height. Let's see, line height will be 1.2. Not list height, line height. All right, there we go. Anything else I need to think about here? Let's see if there's any weird letter spacing things, just to make sure we're getting this pixel perfect as much as possible. Not really. We are going to have different like weights, but I'll probably just declare those as we go. So everything should be 500, which is the default. This right here gets to 600, so does this. So I'll need to try to remember that. So I guess really that's 700. So this is the only 500 right here. So maybe I just set the default to the 600. So maybe let's do that. So we'll say font weight, and maybe I should go ahead and make these declarations up here too. So we'll say font weight bold, and this will be 700, right? 700, and then we'll do semi, whatever you want to say there, and this will be 600, and then finally the regular will be 500. So we'll actually set this as the semi for now. Let's see, font weight semi. All right, there we go. And that means everything should pick that up by default, and we can just change the one we need to. All right, so let's come back here. I think that's enough to get started with. Let's think now about spacing. So I've got 85, 85, 85, and 85. So that's my kind of one of my padding levels. So maybe we start by just grabbing this right here. Inside here, looks like these are all 32. So again, I can grab that gap. Inside, let's see. Anything else? Oh, look, these are separate. Okay, so there's a 40 as well. So where's my gap down here? Nope, don't see it. Okay, well, let's remember 40 if we can. Then I'm also going to have other ones. What's this? That's 8. How about this? 16. So 40, 8, 16. And let's see, they're smaller. There's another 8. What is this right here? 4. Okay, so 4, 8, 16, 32, 40, and 85. We can remember that, I think. All right, so let's come up here, and we'll just add like spacing right here. And let's call this space, I know my medium. Let's go medium, large, trying to remember how many we have. Extra large, I think we'd have a 2XL, and then we'd have a small, and probably an extra small. I think that's the right number. So let's see, let's start with the smallest. This was 4 pixels, and then we got to 8 pixels. Then I had my 16, which would be my medium, so 16 pixels. Large would be 32. 85's up here. 32's down here, and then 40 here. Did I do that right? I think so. 85, 40, 32. So we'll use these throughout the document. That way they can kind of set our size for us. All right, other things I want to do, let's maybe just start on the card and kind of work that out. So I know this has a class of card, and I guess to position it in the middle first. Let's maybe set the size of this right here. So what is this? 78, 78. So let's start with saying all the images should be display of block, and then that gets rid of that weird line height thing that happens with images. Let's also come in this card and maybe give it some kind of a class. So we'll call this, let's just call it headshot. Okay, there we go. Let's jump back over here. Same thing here, 78 pixels, something like that, I think. So we'll set that as the width here. Is that right? 78, yeah. All right, we also need some border radiuses. So I guess maybe let's also do that. So I've got this border radius here of 16. This is obviously full. This would be full too. What's this one? 8. There we go. Same thing here. Yeah, so 8, 16, and full, I think. I think that's it. So let's just add like rounding or something like that. How about radius? All right, so we've got round, let's call it round small. This is 8 pixels. We'll do round medium. This will be 16 pixels. And then round full. We'll call this 100 VMAX. All right, so that'll either take the height or the width, whatever's bigger, and basically round it off of that. So it'll always be a perfect circle, or as much as it can be depending on its width and height attributes. All right, so with that said, let's also get this in the middle display grid, place items center, and then min height, we'll do 100 V height. But dynamic view height, why not? All right, so there we go. In the middle, now the background, I don't know what color this is supposed to be. It doesn't pick up on this at all. So what is this thing? Rectangle. It's not showing me any color. It's definitely not that. Oh, it's passed through 4%. So I guess we set it to 4% opacity. So maybe we come back to here and set this to accent. And now you'll see why I did it this way. 0.4 makes it that exact color. Okay, so now the card itself, background color, we'll do HSL of my white. And then we need padding. And because we set up all these variables, this should be pretty quick to template out. So space 2XL, that's my 85 all the way around. Border radius will be my var of large. Let's see, radius, rounded. What was that? Rounded, medium, I guess. All right, so 16 all the way around. Now we've also got this shadow. And let's see what this drop shadow is. So 44 down. 104 blur, 10% opacity. We can do that. Maybe, I mean, we're not going to use it here, but we might in the future. So maybe I come up here and we'll say like blur, sure. All right, so 0, 44 pixels, 104 pixels, and then this will be my HSL of accent. And this was 0.1, I think, right? So we'll use that, this blur right here. Down, I don't like blur. Let's call it drop. All right, so for drop shadow. And then down here, we'll say box shadow, and this will just be my var of drop. There we go. I think that is working. Let me come back up here. Where is that? Right here. So let's remove this just to make sure that that's working. Yeah, okay. All right, so that's set to go. Now, if I remember right, all of this was in its own section, and then this was below it because we had a difference in the spacing. So maybe, is that right? Yeah. So let's come back over here and to this index.html. Let's break this section off. So all of this down to here is in its own section. So maybe we just call this card top. Yeah, I like that. So card top, and then I'll come back down here and we'll have card top. And this will be display grid and gap of our space large, which should be that 40 pixel amount. And then below here, that'll kind of be set off to its own thing. No, let's see, this should be medium because these were 32. And then this up here should be display grid and var, let's see, gap var space large. So that'll separate these by 40 and all of these by 32, if we did that correctly. Okay, so I think the general spacing is good. Let's go ahead and actually style the actual H2 now. So we'll say H2, maybe let's put it inside the card top. So any H2 inside of a card top here, we'll have a font size of var font size, my biggest one. And let's see, line height we determined was all pretty much the same. So I think that might be it. Yeah. Okay. So next, we need to set these things apart. This needs a full rounding. So now I can go, I guess we didn't, oh, we have a headshot right here. Yeah. So border radius will be full. There we go. Now these need to be next to each other. And maybe we should start setting up some utility classes so we don't have to kind of do the same thing over and over again. So this section right here will be next to each other, and it was 16. Yeah, 16. So we'll call that flex medium, since medium is our breakpoint there. That medium breakpoint is 16. So flex medium, which means it's a medium flex area, and we'll just align items at center as well. And then these things, these 4 part, yeah. Okay, so this we'll call grid of extra small, because that was our extra small spacing. So I think we should be good once we get those set up. Now this thing right here was my only 14, or was this 14 too? That was 14 too. Okay, so let's maybe just put this in a small tag, small like that, and we can style that in its own way. Okay, so let's go ahead and set up some of these. So flex medium, grid extra small. So maybe we come up top here. Let's do like some utils, and then here we'll have like card classes or something. So I know I'm going to have a flex medium, and then I'll also have a grid extra small, and eventually I would template the rest of these out for like an actual site, but for now we'll say display grid and gap of our medium, round medium, space medium. Okay, grid extra small, let's grab all this and we'll do the same thing. This will be extra small, and this will be, let's see, this was flex. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so these should set everything next to each other. I just need to now say items, line item center, and I think that should work. And then I guess I also, why are these things spaced out still so far? Aha! Random spacing on this paragraph for Sarah Bills. I thought I had padding and margin at 0. Why is this thing doing its thing? So, not totally sure why that is. So let's look down here. Grid extra small. That is what I've got here. Space extra small. I'm curious how this thing's getting padding though. Display user agent style sheet. Margin block. Margin. Let's see. Before, after, 0 pixels. What am I doing wrong here? I'm not sure why that declaration isn't working. Let's see. The after, let's just restart this. So after and before. Okay, there we go. All right, so it overrode it. Now I must have just messed up that declaration somehow. Okay, the other thing I need to do is change around. Maybe I'll do it below the body here, that small tag. So font weight, first of all, this is my only one. If I remember correctly, that's the font weight of regular. So we'll go ahead and set that there. And then font size will be our font size of my 300. Okay, so we should be set there. These should be 4 apart. These should be 16 apart. All of these should be 32 apart, if I remember correctly. Let's just double check. Spacing of 16. Okay, so that's a problem too, because they looked a little close. So let's come back to the card. Let's see, grid large. This says card top, gap of medium. So let's, card top. Okay, so these should be large, and this should be extra large. I think I messed that up multiple times. So now these should be 32 apart. There we go. And this bottom one here should be 40 apart, extra large. Okay. Next, let's work on, let's see, we've got a couple things. Maybe let's just work on this link since we're already here working on text itself. So I'll come back up top here and we'll just say font. Can I say font inherit? Will that pick up everything? No. So let's take our color and var of accent right here. Oops. How about that? I think that should work, and it's underlined. So I think we should be good there. I guess we need to underline offset technically because it looks like it's a little bit different. Underline a text offset, maybe 2 pixels. Maybe it's just our var space of extra small. It looks like it's just below the P, just touching it. So maybe we need to go 3 pixels and call it good. That works for me. All right, next we've got this button here. What else should be? This is probably a button where you can toggle this on and off. So that should probably be a button as well. So maybe let's work on the button styling next. Oops, wrong direction. So back over here, utils, let's now call this button. And what I want is my button here. Let's go ahead and give this button down here that same class. So class of BTN. and jump back over here. So what do we need this button to look like? It's 16 semi-bold, so that's our default. It looks like it's got 16 all around and my small rounding on everything. And I think that's it. I guess it needs the right color of text. So maybe we do some basic resets on all the buttons and all the inputs. So we'll say input and label and button. We'll font inherit, so it'll take the default from the body, and that should already improve it vastly. Maybe that's all we'll do since it's kind of a large declaration there. So back down this way. Now what I want to do is say cursor of pointer, and so that way I get this cursor right here. The other thing would be background color. In this case, I want it to be my accent, and accent. And then I don't want a border on it, so we'll say border of none. And let's go ahead and set the color to my color of white. And then I need padding all the way around of var space medium, which is that 16 pixels. Finally, I need border radius, and this would be var of small, round small. Okay, so I think I'm happy with that. I'd probably want to add some kind of hover state to this though, I guess, as well. So maybe let's come to a button and we'll grab the hover, and let's just set the background color to the accent, and then we'll just take some opacity off of it, like 80% or 20% off of it to take it down to 80. Then let's transition this on the background color property, background color, and we'll do like 200 milliseconds cubic Bezier. Sure, let's just take one of these. So now I should be able to come in here. There we go. Okay, so I'm pretty happy with that. I guess when I tab to it, it's got this default color around it. So maybe let's also change that. So I'm going to say the button focus. I'm going to set the outline color here. I'll just remove that. Now, if you ever remove it, you've got to replace it with something useful. So I'll make sure to do that. So let's take the button focus visible. So when you actually tab to it, now we'll add a box shadow around it. So we'll do like 0, 0, 0 for the blur. And then let's start with 4 pixels and then HSL. And what I want this to be is my white. So right now, all I've done is when I tab to it, it'll have a white ring around it. You can actually see it cuts off that stay just a little bit, stay signed in. And then I'll add another one. So in here, I'll add a comma and we'll go 8 pixels around now. And in this case, I'll take my accent. So like this. And now when I tab to it, I get this whole situation. Which means I should probably also copy this and add one more transition, which would be on the box shadow, like this. Okay, so now it'll kind of pop out like that. Yeah, I like that. Okay. I've got this already. I think I'm happy with that. Okay, so let's now work on the password field itself. Now this one, probably what I'm going to do is put these, let's see, this and all of this in a section, I think. And I'll stack these next to each other as siblings. And then this will be position absolute, and we'll just kind of pad this around as we set this up. So let's go ahead and come back over here. Let's go to that index and start right here. So let's see, I wanted this like that. That's fine. But then here, I'm going to actually add this in its own little div and space this out because I want to add a couple things. So we'll have, let's see, this input type. We'll have the SVG before here, right? Yeah, so we'll grab the lock to start with. We'll say lock icon. And I guess this is decorative, so I don't really need an attribute, alt attribute, so this should hide it essentially from screen readers because it's not really that important. This one, however, we do need to say like, well, it'll be inside a button, right? So let's put this in a button. We'll say like show, I guess this would need an ID probably that you would use to toggle on and off. So for now, I'll just say like, yeah, show password or something like that. Okay, so we'll style that here in a second. Yeah, I think that should work. Okay. So what else do I need here? I think that's pretty much good. This thing is going to need some kind of wrapper. So let's just call this, let's call this input wrapper. How about that? This image will need to be position absolute. These are going to be next to each other. I think that's pretty much all I need. I guess this is going to need a wrapper to set them next to each other. And what's the spacing here? 8. So this can just be one of my utility classes. So this was grid of small, I think. Let's just double check that's working. Extra large. Oh, you know what? I never had a small. So let's come back to my utils. And, you know, again, usually I build these out so that I have all of them available to me. But for now, we'll just change it like that, and that should work. Okay, so down below here, let's go inside. How about right here? Let's leave the head shot a little higher up. So inside here, I'm going to grab my input wrapper, and here I'll do display flex, and let's see, position of relative. That way I can position that icon a little bit differently, which probably also means I need a class on here too. So we'll say like lock icon or something like that, and then I can grab this and drop it into my style sheet. So lock icon, we'll say position of absolute, and that should place it wherever I want it. In this case, we'll position that in just a second, but I need these things first of all to be spread all the way out. So we'll say, I guess, let's see, input wrapper. How is this set up? Input wrapper, this input right here needs to stretch fully across. So we can do this in a couple different ways, but maybe let's just take the type of password, or this is as good as an ID. And I like to leave the IDs for JavaScript, so let's maybe do that. So we'll say name is password. We'll grab this as an attribute selector. Then I'll just say flex of 1, 0, and 100. That should work. Now these things need to be positioned or gapped off of each other by, let's see, 16. So my medium gap. So var, our gap var medium, space medium. Okay, I think that should work. We've got a couple things we need to style. Got the lock icon, and I've got, what did I call the other one? Nothing. Well, there we go. Oh no, I did. Show password. So this is my show password button. So maybe let's get that set up next. And tell you what, it's going to share a lot of the same things. So maybe we should say button here, and then button show password. Sure. How about just button password? And then maybe what I should do is take this button here and then add to button primary or something like that. Because what that will allow us to do is to come back up here, and we can take a few things off. So for instance, this background color and this color we can add in a different place. So maybe we'll say background color is transparent for now. Transparent. And that way it doesn't have anything to start with. Isn't that how that is? Yeah. And then maybe the same thing with the padding and the border radius too. So we'll take button primary. We'll add those in here. And then we'll also add, well, let's leave the border radius and just take the padding off. Okay, so I'll pop that in down there. That way this doesn't have any extra padding. You can see I get this kind of weird, nasty hover state. But I can change the hover based on which button it is. Yeah, so let's grab this. And yeah, I think that should work. Yeah, we'll be fine with that. Is that what I want to do? Sure, let's do that. All right, so down below here, we'll now grab the button password. Is that what I called it? Button, password, yeah. Okay, so here what we're going to do is the same kind of thing. So I'll go back and grab all this. Nope, that's not the right thing. Right here. And here we don't want any background color. I guess I don't want any of that. I do want it to have cursor pointer, which it does. I just want to change the color on hover and change the color on focus visible. So let's grab it like this, and I'll say button password and add the same thing down here. And that's fine. Actually, that should be the same. So let's just take focus visible. Nope, not that. Password on focus visible. And we'll change a couple things. So first of all, here for the background accent, let's go to like 0.1. So that way I do have some kind of state that shows, which probably also means I do need some kind of padding on this. So I'll grab this right here and we'll declare this here and say padding of like var extra small, something like that. So technically it has a little bit of padding, but at least it looks decent now. And then if I tab to it, I'm fine with that. So let's leave that alone. So let's see. Where was that? Yeah, right here. Okay, we'll get rid of this. Okay, so I think we're mostly good. Let's just get this thing positioned correctly. So if I come back over to the design. All right, so back over this way. See, this thing is 16 off everything. And let's see, what makes the most sense? Let's go ahead. Because I want this thing to be focused all the way around. Yeah, this does need to be position of absolute. So let's go ahead and just set padding on the entire input field itself. So let's see, let's come down here. What do we call that thing? Checkbox, no, password, input wrapper. I guess it would be this right here, right? Yeah, so let's take this name of password. And did I actually declare that already? Yeah, right here. So we'll say padding var space of medium. That should space it around, medium all the way around. And then we had a border radius on here of our rounded, I think medium. No, that's too much. So it's the small. All right, it also needs a border, and I'm guessing that's 1 pixel solid, and my HSL of accent. Yeah, that looks about right. And then let's position this thing where it needs to be. So this lock icon needs to be top 16 pixels. Or I guess we could just do top half. That way, if we were to change that, let's see, 50%, yeah. If we were to change it, as far as the spacing, we could just change it, and this should all just update for us automatically. So transform, translate, I guess we'd want it in the Y direction, negative 50%, like that. And then we'll do left, yeah, let's do left here of 16 pixels. All right, or we could do our spacer, I guess, as well. So there we go. Now we just need to move this padding here. So medium should be fine for pretty much everything. But let's see, top, right, bottom, left. So this one would be maybe the 2XL. Let's see where that puts us. Oh, too far. Let's go XL. Too short. Maybe let's just do a little calculation here. So calc, and we'll do like times 1.2. I'm happy with that. All right, so we add this stuff in here now. I think that should all work properly. I don't know if it's supposed to have like, let's see, these asterisks. You can't really change that, I don't think. So I have an idea. All right, let's go ahead and just add a placeholder. So right over here, let's see, where's this? Yeah, right here. So we'll say placeholder, and let's just go ahead and manually add these things so that it at least looks kind of right. Let's see, I changed the screen. There we go. And then I can just grab this. Kind of hacky, but you know, we're just trying to get it to look like the design. So here I just need my color, I guess to inherit would work. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so there we go. Once you start typing, it's going to change, but that's all right. Maybe let's also add a little custom border to this as well. So we'll grab this and grab the focus state and set the outline color to transparent. And then when we get focus visible, so if I come in here, focus visible, and let me pull this down. Here we want box shadow, and maybe we'll do the same kind of thing, 0, 0, 0. And let's do 4 pixels. How about 2 pixels? Solid. No, not solid. Accent. White first, then accent. All right, so that it shares the same background color. And then this will be accent. And this needs to be larger so you can actually see it, but we won't make it as dramatic as the button itself. So now if I focus in on that, I've liked things I've done more. Maybe we just change this to 4. So we'll kind of add like a ring around it basically. And this needs to be my accent. So there we go. That's okay. Is that what I want? Oh, sure. What if I do -4? What does that do? No, that's not good. Okay. I think that's fine. It's a little clearer than the default, so I'm happy with that. This thing probably needs to be just its exact size and height so that it looks the exact same. Left to right, up and down. So where was that? Button password. So let's grab this and we'll say, I guess, min max height. Let's just set the width and height on both of these. Can I do aspect ratio 1/1? No. All right. So let's say max height would be like, I'm kind of guessing on a number here right now, but yeah, let's say 24 pixels. And then max width would be 24 pixels. Well, that was a dumb idea. All right, let's grab both of these. These are kind of like magic number things. So I guess the other thing I could do is to say max height is fit content. And that way it should just fit itself. No? How about just height fit content? Yeah, there we go. And then I just need to justify self center. Or I could do it with parent too, but right? No? What is this inside of? Let's check. Oh, it's just kind of on its own. No, it's on the input wrapper. Okay. Okay, so let's just change it there. So I don't even think I need that max height. I think I can get rid of all this and come to my wrapper. And let's see. We've got another wrapper somewhere. No, this is it. So align items and we'll do center. Yeah, there we go. Okay. So that should be good to go, which means I think the only thing we've got left now is just this checkbox. So over here, this shouldn't be too difficult. We're going to basically have this as its own little group, and this will be split off from it. Looks like we've got a 16 pixel gap where we need it. Probably need to change around some of the HTML though. So let's come back over here, and yeah, so right inside here, let's maybe have this be something like checkbox wrapper. This is a checkbox here. So these will be next to each other. I probably want a fake checkbox in here. So I'll say fake checkbox. And I'll use that to actually draw everything. And then finally this button. So yeah, I think we're good. So let's take this checkbox wrapper. And let me save that, make sure that's saved. We'll come all the way down here, about right here. And first of all, I want this to be display flex. Gap of var space medium, which is that 16 pixels. Items, let's see, align items center. That should work. And then let's go ahead and justify content space between. Okay, I think we're good there. Let's next take the, what was that thing called? We haven't given this a name. So let's call this checkbox. So that was the checkbox wrapper. Maybe we should call this the checkbox wrapper, and this we could just call confirmations or something like that. Let's see. Sure. All right, confirmations. So let's come back over here. We'll change this out for confirmations and save this here. And then let's grab our checkbox wrapper. And this is the thing we need to set position of relative on. So what we're trying to do here is basically hide this natural input and replace it with our own custom thing we're going to create. So we'll start by grabbing our type of checkbox. We're going to just hide this. But I want to, first of all, make it to where anywhere I click in that whole section will actually toggle this checkbox. So to do that, I'm going to say position of absolute, and then we'll inset it 0, which is the same as saying top, right, left, and bottom 0. And let's see, anything else I want to do there? I guess I want appearance to be none, and then opacity 0, just to make sure it's really gone. But anywhere in here should work. And then to make sure I get that cursor, let's go cursor of pointer. And now anywhere in here I should get that. Yeah, there we go. The other thing I want to do, because I keep getting this flashing here on the image. Let's see, headshot. What was that, 78 pixels? So let's go ahead and just set this width directly on the image itself so that it doesn't flash constantly like that. Right here. So width will be 78 pixels. And that way it loads in at that size too. Okay. Now we've got that fake checkbox, which is what we need to style next. So I'll come down here, fake checkbox. Yeah, here we go. So fake checkbox. And first thing I want to do is figure out what size this should be. So over here, let's see, this is, if it lets me figure out. Okay, 60 and 36. So let's set the width here to 60 and the height to 36 pixels. And then this needs a border probably of 1 pixel solid. Accent. Oops. Accent like this. And I think that should work. Let's save it. Yeah, there we go. Border radius. Var full. Round full. Okay, there we go. Now these need to be set next to each other. And once again, this is probably 8 pixels. Yeah, there we go. So it's one of our kind of predefined amounts. So let's set, let's see, the checkbox wrapper. So let's say flex, display flex, and then gap of our small. Not extra small because that's our 4 pixels. Okay. And then align items center. Okay, so there we go. Now we just need to add the little checkbox thing, which we'll do with the after pseudo element. So right here, let's grab this and we'll grab the after, or we could do before. This always needs a content, even if it doesn't have any. And let's figure out what size this thing is. 22. All right, so we'll say width of 22 pixels. And I guess let's copy this down and change it to height of 22 pixels. Background color here will be my accent. And let's see, where is it? Is it here somewhere? Fake checkbox. There we go. After, oh, it's an inline element. So display a block. There we go. Let's also grab this and drop this down here too. Border radius, perfect. All right, now we've got to position it exactly in the middle. Let's see, this is 7. It says all the way around. So we'll say position probably of just absolute. I think that should work. And after pseudo elements are automatically scoped to the actual parent, so we don't need to say position relative up here. So we'll say top of 7 pixels and left of 7 pixels. And that looks just about right. And then, see, now when I'm hovering over this, this is always a cursor unless I'm over here, which means this whole thing needs to be pointer events of none. And I probably should also do the same for all of these SVGs, just so like I'm not clicking on the SVG, I'm actually clicking on the button. And you can handle that in JavaScript, but why not just make sure that I don't have the possibility of messing that up? So let's come up here and say all of my SVGs should be pointer events of none. All right, back down to the bottom. Let's go ahead and do the movement. All right, so to start with, let's have a transition just on the transform property, 200 milliseconds. Let's just do ease for now. And now what we need to do is decide when it gets checked. We can actually use this checkbox when it has the checked property set to true, which we can do with this CSS selector of checked. And what we'll say is when it is checked, then I want to grab its sibling. I think it's its immediate sibling. So yeah, so I put right down here. So I put the input, and as its sibling, I put the fake checkbox so that when I check this, I can use CSS to look at the next element sibling and change something on that. And that's what I want to do. So I could do anything, but since I already know what it is, it's my fake checkbox, and I guess I need my after. So when this is the case, I want to transform this translate X. Let's start with 100%. I'm not exactly sure if that will work. Hey, maybe it did. Looks almost right. Not quite. So like 102%, 105%. Now we're just playing around with numbers. 110%, 120%. Is it really moving over? Oh, it is. Okay, so 110%, something like that. So now this swaps back and forth. Let's make that a little snappier though. So I'm going to come inside here. And lastly, let's go ahead and grab this after, and let's just play around with this live. So, oh yeah, we're going to make this thing snappy. How about this? All right. That didn't really work. Oh, I never added this transform. Okay, so yeah, this needs to be snappier. Let's come back inside here, grab the after. Let's get snappy with it. How about that? Oh yeah, that's rewarding. All right, let's go ahead and do that, and we'll copy that in. Okay, so I think that's basically everything. We've even got tab states. I guess we don't have a tab state here, so that's probably something else we want to think about. So let's also come inside here. Because we set the appearance to none, we're not going to get that. So what we're going to want is whenever this is focused, then we're going to want to grab this. Not the after, just all that. And let's go ahead and grab one of our box shadows. Didn't I add... I think I did add a box shadow somewhere. Oh no, that was the whole thing. Yeah, so this should work. That was for the actual shadow down below, the drop shadow. I was thinking I added a variable up top for that. So let's go ahead and grab it like this, and then I guess we also need to grab this and add it here. And we'll say that this is, oops, how about right here? Transform. This needs to now be box shadow on the after. So now when I tab to it, there we go. So it snaps out. And if I hit spacebar, it should toggle it back and forth, which is cool. Okay, so I think that's everything. I guess that's kind of nasty. So maybe we also work on that. Briefly, this is not what I would normally do, but since it's our last thing, let's just set this to a max width of fit content. And that way it won't be larger. There we go, than it's supposed to be. Let's also transform. Let's set this to the box shadow again. And then what we'll say is whenever this is focused visible, I guess let's also grab the focus state. Focus, like this. Set this to outline color of transparent. Transparent, like that. And then here what I want is the box shadow like that. So now, yeah, there we go. And again, I probably wouldn't do this, but let's go ahead and add a border radius on here. Border radius of our rounded. Let's do full. How does that look? Could look better. Let's do small. That way it just looks a little bit more like it's supposed to, kind of in the design itself. So there we go. I'm pretty happy with that, how that turned out. Here you can type it in and those are replaced. This is not clickable. This is a button, and you can see kind of changing hover states here. Same thing here. This toggles back and forth. Look how snappy that is. Hopefully you enjoy that as much as I do. But these kinds of practice things are just super helpful for you to kind of make sure that you can really get these down. Now, if you're interested in more practices like this, I commend you UI Design Daily. I think there's like 1,000 designs on here, and most of them you can grab like the actual Figma or Sketch or XD file for it. And you can see that a lot of them are just, quite complex, like this one right here. And several of them are really simple, like the one we just did. And you can even play around and add your own JavaScript to it. In this case, we're just using HTML and CSS, but you can see some of these are quite complex and would take you quite a while to get them all to work right from a UX UI perspective. But anyhow, I hope this was a help to you. I like to kind of code live and think out loud because it helps me, and I think it's helpful too when I'm learning to watch people do the same thing. So I hope you enjoyed this kind of live stream out of time, and hopefully the next time you see me, I'll be in my new place. All right, thanks so much for watching. I'll catch you in the next one. Happy coding.